Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sovereign Spirits, where we discuss the possibility of this planet and the universe as being a type of trap where we get caught in a reincarnation cycle, partly perpetuated by so-called guides and counselors. And we focus on ways to transcend this cycle by remembering our true essence and using our intention in a willful and empowered way to manifest an afterlife as sovereign spirits. I am Julie McVeigh, and I am here with co-creator and co-host of the show, Wayne Bush.
Well, hi, Julie, and hi, everyone. In today's episode, we will be going over our article, which we wrote on June 10, 2024, entitled A Case Against Merging with Source or God.
We will be reading this article because we spent a great amount of time writing this article together, and we have carefully worded it the way we like it, and we don't want to forget anything that's important. So
Right, and we'll take turns reading the sections just so in case one of us is saying something, it does not mean that was solely that person's idea, but rather this article was a collaborative effort from the both of us.
all right, so just to start off, we realize this article will be a little bit controversial. It's a really difficult topic to write about. There's so much on this topic that's unknown. So we just want you to know we do not pretend to know everything.
Right. I mean, this is just our opinion. We simply hope to provide evidence suggesting that merging with source or God should be reconsidered. We're not ruling out the possibility that there is a true, genuine source or originator with whom to merge. We feel that since there is such a strong push to merge with source from, the New Age community, that is likely a false copy of the original true source, if there is one.
And if there is no original true source, perhaps each of us is an independent source. For example, sources within, who is and who has always been. In other words, that we're not created from any source, and we do not emanate from any source, possibly. And another possibility, of course, is that we're already part of source, and so merging is not even necessary at all.
So the first section of our article is recurring theme, oneness and merging. The ideas of oneness and returning to and merging with the divine source are recurring themes in individual experiences, religious texts, mystical traditions, and New Age beliefs. And while it's difficult to determine the precise origin of the concepts, the quest for union with the divine source has been present in various cultures throughout human history.
Individuals using meditation, psychedelics, and other methods have reported mystical experiences, visions, or revelations involving a sense of unity or oneness with a divine source or cosmic consciousness.
Ideas of union with the divine source are found in ancient Eastern religions such as Hinduism, Buddhism, and Taoism. In Hinduism, the concept of moksha or liberation involves breaking free from the cycle of reincarnation and merging with the ultimate reality, Brahman.
Christian mysticism aims to achieve union with God through contemplative prayer, meditation, and the study of sacred texts. Oneness is also within the fundamentalist Christian thinking, which is inspired by the Bible.
New Age beliefs propose that individuals can undergo a process of ascension or spiritual evolution where one's consciousness rises to higher levels of awareness and vibration, eventually merging with the divine source or unity consciousness.
So, as we progress through this article, ponder the reasons why this idea of merging with Source or God is so prominent in human thinking. Is it something intrinsic within our being, or is it something programmed within us after we came here? Another question to ask yourself might be is what's the benefit of merging with an external source?
Does anybody really know what source is? People have different ideas about what it means to be one with or merge with source. Some believe merging means we lose our identity, yet others believe we retain it. In this article, we generally mean absorption of identity or loss of sovereignty.
All right, so the shift from polytheism to monotheism, changing the narrative. Originally, the belief in one God or monotheism was not practiced. Before organized civilizations, many prehistoric cultures practiced animism, which is the belief that spirits inhabit natural objects and phenomena, and that all creatures possess a distinct spiritual essence. Animism, like pantheism, shares the idea of a divine presence within nature.
Early human societies exhibited polytheistic traits, worshiping multiple deities associated with natural forces, animals, and ancestors. Archaeological evidence, such as figurines and cave paintings, suggests reverence for various spirits and gods. There were gods for different things: a sun god, a moon god, god of the wind, god of the sea, etc.
For example, in Sumer, the earliest recognized civilization, Enlil was the god of the wind or storms. Enki was the god of wisdom, water, and creation. In Egyptian, Greek, and Roman mythology, there were also multiple gods worshipped.
Pantheism is the belief that the divine and the universe are identical. That is, all is God and God is all. Is this a type of oneness? Although Hinduism has both polytheistic and monotheistic elements, pantheism can be seen in the early Vedic texts of Hinduism and more explicitly in the Upanishads.
The emergence of monotheism marked a significant shift in religious beliefs. The acceptance that there is only one God to worship helped set the stage for the eventual promotion of merging with one God.
Pharaoh Akhenaten is often credited with one of the earliest instances of monotheism by promoting the worship of Aton, the sun disk, above all other gods and suppressing traditional polytheism.
Yes, similarly, the ancient Persian prophet Zoroaster founded Zoroastrianism, one of the world's oldest monotheistic religions, which influenced later faiths such as Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, particularly in concepts like the battle between good and evil, judgment after death, and the messianic figure.
In the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, Yahweh or Jehovah is presented as the one true God. Key declarations including, I am God, the only God there is. Besides me, there are no real gods, Isaiah 45:5. And the first commandment, you shall have no other gods before me, Exodus 23. Both of those affirm this monotheistic belief.
The point is, things did not start off with monotheism. There was a progression of thought moving from animism to polytheism to pantheism to monotheism.
Why is that the case? Was there a deliberate attempt to shift our thinking toward believing in one God?
All right, the next section we want to talk about is this idea that we are disconnected, but from what? Sentiments of oneness certainly sound very nice, but why does it sound so nice to us? It may appeal to us because this universe is set up this way, but what else could this appeal to within us?
The heavily pushed narrative, of oneness and merging is very effective because it attempts to satisfy one's feeling of being disconnected. New Age philosophies and some Eastern religious teachings tell us our feeling of disconnection or separation from source is an illusion.
Right. These teachings mainly come from channeled messages, for example, deities, angels, ETs, ascended masters. Why do the recipients of these messages automatically trust these sources of information, especially when so many messages are conflicting? Have these beings or entities been properly vetted?
Even if these channeled entities want you to merge with something, doesn't that imply you are not one with, that is separate from whatever it is they want you to merge with?
Right.
If separation from source is just an illusion, why does it need or want us to merge with it?
The very fact that merging with God or source is so strongly pushed to the mainstream masses of religion and New Age circles should be a red flag, especially because those in control of this exploited system in the astral realms have demonstrated they have ulterior motives.
Rather than originating from source, perhaps each of us is truly an eternal individual spirit or consciousness, independent from one another or any external higher or supreme being. If one is disconnected from something, then it might be one's own true essence.
Why wouldn't we feel disconnected when we've lost the memory of who we are and why we're here?
No. Does this feeling of separation come from forgetting who one truly is, a sovereign true essence, which is not connected at all to some external source or deity?
Mhm. So the next section we would like to discuss is the New Age movement. So far we've looked at the recurring theme of oneness and merging, the shift from polytheism to monotheism, and the idea of separation from source. So now we want to investigate perhaps the biggest push toward oneness today, the New Age movement.
New Age spirituality draws upon esoteric teachings and channeled messages from spirit guides, ascended masters, and extraterrestrial beings.
While New Age spirituality often emphasizes the oneness of all beings and the underlying unity of existence, it also stresses the concept of the God within, suggesting each individual possesses a divine spark of God.
The New Age goal is to awaken this inherent divinity and work to resolve karmic patterns and attachments that bind one to the material world and align us with the divine will, ultimately experience a sense of reunion or merging with the universal consciousness or divine source.
The idea is that the same God in you is the same God in me. In this situation, you think you have your own will, but you would really just be doing the will of the one God or God's will. For those with a Christian background, doesn't this sound a bit similar to the body of Christ doing the will of the one God?
What many don't seem to realize is that the beliefs of many New Agers still carry monotheistic overtones, just like the Christian religion from which they managed to escape.
Christians believe there is one God from whom they come. For example, they're a child of God. New Agers believe there is one source of which they are a part. They are a divine spark of source.
Yeah, and so the next section we want to speak about is fragmented parts. Many in the New Age community say we are fragmented parts of one entity, so separation is just an illusion. And we need to let go of the ego so we can realize we're all part of one being. In other words, we are already a part of Source and we just need to recognize it. Others say we need to return to or merge back with Source, also known as the light, God or Brahman, Source, among some names.
As a result of this mentality, we are all one. Not only are we pushed to merge with a being larger than ourselves, we're also encouraged to merge or integrate our fragmented parts with our current soul. We read in the books of out-of-body pioneer Robert Monroe that he believed he needed to collect his I theirs in hopes to reach escape velocity, wink out as a totality, and then pass through the aperture.
We feel this temptation to gather all our lost fragments may also be part of the trap to keep us here indefinitely because one has to go on for eons trying to convince free will fragments they must merge with you.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't it seem nonsensical that we came here or we come here to experience the illusion we are separate from God so we can discover we have never been separate from God at all?
Yeah. The next section is a copy of true reality or holographic reality. A prevailing theory, especially among Gnostics, is the idea that this reality is just a copy of the true reality. Along with the idea of oneness, scientists are now seriously discussing the idea this universe may be a hologram.
In other words, each part of a hologram contains the whole image. When you cut a photograph into pieces, each piece has only part of the photograph in it, whereas when you cut a hologram into pieces, each piece contains the whole picture.
For example, when you cut a hologram of an apple, a subset of our reality, into pieces, each piece has the image of the entire apple.
All right, so this possibility, this may be a holographic universe implies it might not be real, but more like an illusion.
It could be a copy of reality, but it could just as likely be a copy of only a small portion of the true reality. And like a hologram, it wouldn't be a pristine copy. It might be distorted, diluted, degraded, copy lacking the full content.
So now we're going to go into NDEs and the idea that there's a super entity that's growing bigger and bigger, possibly through our sacrifices. We've looked at the recurring themes, the shift toward monotheism, separation, the push toward oneness, and the part New Age thought plays into this, including fragments and the idea of a copy or holographic reality. How do near-death experiences, NDEs, fit into all of this?
During their NDE, many experiencers report encountering a bright light or radiant presence, often described as loving, comforting, and all-encompassing. Some NDEers describe a profound sense of unity or oneness with this divine presence, experience a deep connection to the source of all existence.
Many NDEers have also experienced this oneness or the feeling that everything is interconnected to the point they believed they merged with the light. There are NDEers who say merging does not lead to losing one's identity.
However, there are others who say the opposite. For example, Justin Hughes said, I knew if I merged totally, I would disappear, would become one.
Some near-death experiencers report the being of light is the collective soul of all humanity combined.
A man on nderf.org, NDERF.org, named Israel, wrote about humanity merging with and being absorbed by a super evolved super entity he was shown by an angel named Lamdiel.
All right, quote, you, the entire humanity, are going to proceed with it. After the unification process with each other, you humans on Earth are going to make the main evolutionary step, the ultimate one as individual humans. You are going to bond with a greater, enormous spirit. It is going to be a strong, huge, high intensity spirit from the third level of existence, from the forces level. That spirit is going to bond himself with all humanity on the planet Earth.
And he continues on to say, it will create a huge new entity, one that will improve your lives tremendously and forever. This huge spirit is quite well known to humanity on Earth. Many people unknowingly already are craving to bond with him. They consciously pray for his help and love him. In some part of their subconscious minds, all people on Earth already know it. And whether they believe in any established religion or not, in times of great need, most humans recognize his existence. They call him God, Elohim, Yahweh, Allah, the Heavenly Father, and many other names, end quote.
3 to 4% of NDErs claim to have met Jesus. Angels and archangels are sometimes seen. One being of light pretended to be the Virgin Mary. So there may be a great deal of manipulation occurring.
You think? Many who claim to have merged with the light called it God. A couple were even told that the light is the God of the Bible.
Although not a near-death experience per se, the following example was included on nderf.org website with all the other NDEs and labeled a spiritually transformative experience, STE. The experiencer who described it as an experience of oneness writes, quote, I encountered a definite being or a voice clearly of mystical or unearthly origin. I heard several voices from different locations around me and within me. One said, everything will be all right. One responding to my unasked question, who are you? The response, God of Abraham. This was Mary D.
Yeah, and this reveals that the NDE, like God, they want us to merge with, very well could be the same one as the psychotic God of the Bible and other holy writings. It's interesting that the Gnostics said the God of the Bible was a false God, a God of this world, and depicted it as having the head of a lion and the body of a serpent. And it's worth noting that several NDEers who claim to have seen the face of God saw the face of a lion.
Speaking of the psychotic God of the Bible and all his tests required for us to prove ourselves worthy sacrificial servants, the New Age justification for the excessive amount of pain and suffering through supposed learning is for us to, quote, grow and evolve.
And what if the real reason it tells us we need to grow to get bigger and bigger is because it wants to do that itself and is stealing our power by farming us and extracting loosh by doing all the investigation, exploration, and hard work for it? Could it be feeding off us? The Gospel of Philip states God is a man eater. Maybe God is also a soul stealer.
Hmm. Soul eater, right?
Soul eater.
Soul eater. Well,
Yes,
soul
sorry.
stealer too, but
Soul eater.
yeah, both.
Yes.
All right, the urge to merge sovereignty and choice is the next section that we would like to go over with you. Um, all the manipulation tactics used to keep us coming back should be enough evidence to demonstrate that we indeed have sovereignty and a choice.
Also, think about this. If there is a one true source we are being pushed to merge with, wouldn't it be the very one responsible for a system whose creatures are mind wiped, must feed off each other in order to survive, and are subjected to endless pain and suffering through repeated reincarcerations or incarnations? I'm sorry.
Exactly.
Is that the kind of being one would want to
Right.
merge with?
As independent sovereign spirits or consciousnesses, we can choose not to unite with the being of light collective soul running this deceptive system.
Absolutely. The very fact we are being urged to merge with it is evidence we are independent from it and have a choice. And the next section is on the void and our true state of essence, or is it part of the deceptive matrix? Evidence from some NDEs suggests all things may originate from a non-dualistic neutral state, which is sometimes referred to as the void or quantum state. The void or quantum state has been described as neither light nor dark, or as both light and dark. It's beyond the duality of light versus dark, good versus evil, etc. It's non-duality. It's outside space and time. It is paradoxically both nothingness and everythingness. Some might call this void the womb of reality or cosmic cradle from which all experiences are birthed.
NDEers who experience the void do not mention experiencing the presence of a deity or a personal being. Also, the void does not appear to be some kind of hive mind collective. It has no will, let alone a will that controls the world or the universe. It seems to be a neutral state of being. So it seems the void is not a personal being at all. People often mistakenly associate God with the light in NDEs and religions, and they think that we should merge with it. But it seems the non-dualistic void exists beyond this light God. The light would most likely come from the void, not the other way around.
But could this void still be a part of the deceptive matrix? Perhaps it's the fabric of the deceptive matrix reality. And so it just feels beyond space and time and like a safe, neutral state to recollect our memories. We don't know. We must not necessarily assume the void is the state of our true essence. It may very well be the place from which all the things in the matrix originate.
The idea there is a creator and a creation may be due to the fact that we are in duality, where there is space and time, cause and effect, and thus separation. If we come from a non-dual state, then each spirit is beyond space and time and therefore has likely always existed and will always exist. All right, so the next section is called Philosophy, the One. In philosophical thinking, Plotinus, the founder of Neoplatonism, expanded upon Plato's concept of the good by introducing the idea of the one.
Unlike previously discussed concepts of a single source, Plotinus's notion of the one is a transcendent principle beyond all attributes, including being and non-being.
The one is the source of all existence, but it is not an act of creation, as activity cannot be ascribed to something immutable and unchangeable.
Yeah, and although Plotinus described a process of spiritual ascent or purification leading to union with this divine source, he also taught that the one is supreme and totally transcendent, containing no division, multiplicity, or distinction.
It is beyond all categories of being and non-being, cannot be any existing thing, and is not merely the sum of all things, but is prior to all existence.
Right, end quote. The next section, yes, true essence. As part of a consensus reality, we have to work together as one to make it, much of anything significant happen. We feel our true essence exists outside of any consensus reality, though. We are participating in an unnatural construct. foreign to our natural state as eternal unlimited spirits.
Our intention is impacted by others' intentions. Our intention is only one small portion of the entire whole.
Right.
We can't instantly manifest whatever we want here because it's only one small voice in a sea of voices.
We're not convinced one's true essence comes from or is part of an external source or being of authority.
We're also deliberating over the idea that one's true essence may not come from a oneness from which we're all a part, whether you call it a fabric of reality or a void.
We suggest one's goal should not be to merge back with an external source of authority, but to once again remember and empower one's true essence, an eternal sovereign spirit without limitations.
We feel this is the best course of action to take. If we're wrong, setting our intention to remember our true essence will still lead us back to source. And if it doesn't take us back to source immediately, we will always have all eternity to merge back.
And if we're right, we will be free rather than potentially be absorbed by source or oneness and possibly lose our sovereignty and or identity.
Mm-hmm. There is no disadvantage to using sovereignty. If we're sovereign, we will be free.
If we're not sovereign, we will remain subject to another authority. If we aren't even eternal, then we won't be around anyway.
So we want to touch upon language and transhumanism. Here are some current well-known terms of unity trying to persuade us that oneness is the spiritual evolutionary path to take. We are one. World soul, universal mind, the universe, the global brain, Gaia consciousness, collective soul, Christ consciousness, united in Christ, body of Christ, and bride of Christ. Even terms like collective unconscious, higher self, the oversoul, these speak to the oneness movement.
Also, oneness is found within language. Pan, which means all, has become a name associated with the devil. The source is also called all that is, the all or all. Look at the many terms and phrases that are used, all for one and one for all, the law of one, one world, we're all in this together. There's the Borg hive mind and, united we stand, divided we fall, etc.
To further demonstrate we may have bought into the wrong idea of our spiritual origins, consider the terms or language we have been taught to use for these ideas.
Yeah, they want us to believe we were created by some supreme being or that we originated from source. That is Saurus, which is Greek for lizard. Source. Say it out loud. It's almost identical, which kind of brings to mind sorcerer or in a computer source code.
Right.
It's also interesting to note that the word God, G-O-D, has a homophone God, G-A-U-D, which means a cheap, showy trinket. Yeah, trick, jest, sport, deceit, fraud, or artifice.
Artificial. All right. Even the word one is a homophone for the word W-O-N, which implies you are victorious or a winner.
Interestingly, even modern science points to something that seems to shift us toward oneness, the singularity.
Right.
What scientists call the singularity could result in a convergence of humans and machines. When we currently have efforts to link together human brains, which could lead to maybe a hive mind. Some proponents of transhumanism push for us to become cyborgs.
All right, we'd like to conclude now, and just the oneness movement is growing, clearly. Now, is it because humanity is spiritually evolving and beginning to finally realize the truth of our origins? Or is it a distortion of truth to keep us under submission to an authority outside of ourselves?
Religions like Christianity teach that due to the fall, we are separate from God. So we need to return like some prodigal child. We're a child of God. The New Age community teaches separations and illusions. So we need to awaken to the truth. We are one of source. That is, we're a divine spark of source.
Or maybe both are wrong. Maybe there is no God with whom we're separate. Maybe there's no source with whom we're one. Possibly. Maybe we're each individual separate spirits or consciousnesses without beginning or end. For example, source is within.
Why did we come here in the first place? that's unknown. I mean, so much is unknown, but
Mhm.
whatever is being pushed by mainstream thought needs to be seriously evaluated.
For those who were tricked by religion, don't be now tricked by New Age thought. Maybe they are two sides of the same coin. When the religion net doesn't catch you, the New Age net will be there to pick up the pieces.
If the Bible is correct and there is a God, who would want anything to do with this psychopathic, judgmental,
True,
genocidal, narcissistic, vindictive God, let alone merge with it?
true. Likewise, if the New Age teaching is correct and there is one true source, who would want anything to do with a source who designed a system where its creatures are mind wiped, must feed off each other in order to survive, and are subjected to endless pain and suffering through repeated reincarnations? Is that the kind of entity one would want to merge with?
Furthermore, based on the dubious and spurious information presented to us through channelers, the source they want us to merge with would more likely be a false copy, an imposter AI God.
Mm-hmm. If we're participating in a consensus reality with billions of others and we feel this reality is off the rails, why would we want to continue to participate by trying to convince the multitudes determined to stay off track when we could just choose to remember being a sovereign, independent spirit? Savior complexes lead to reincarnation. Would you say the other would be
Reincarceration.
incarceration? Yeah, that's pretty good.
Incarceration.
Yeah,
One of the main reasons we feel one shouldn't merge with Source is because it's being pushed so heavily, especially by, these dubious sources. If you're a Christian who feels you need to unite with God now, or a New Age person who feels you need to return and merge with Source now, then we feel there is no rush because the loving God or Source would always welcome you.
right. Like we said previously, if we're wrong, setting our intention to remember our true essence will still lead us back to source. And if it doesn't take us back to source immediately, we will always have all eternity to merge back.
It's a long time. We reiterate that we do not pretend to know everything. I mean, this is just our opinion. It's a very difficult topic to write about since much of this topic's unknown.
Mm-hmm. We simply hope to provide evidence suggesting merging with source or God should be reconsidered.
How can anybody really know what so-called source is and what it really means to merge with it? We don't know what happens after merging. Probably no one does.
We acknowledge that merging is unnecessary if we're already part of the one true source, which that could be the case.
Also, we are not adamant that if one merges with it, one would necessarily lose their identity or sovereignty. However, given that we could possibly be united with a seriously questionable entity and or potentially lose our identity or sovereignty,
Right.
potentially, we are not willing to take that risk.
Yeah. All right, that sums up our recent article regarding merging with source or God, whatever you want to call it. And we want to thank everyone for watching. This has been Julie McVeigh and Wayne Bush with Sovereign Spirits. If you enjoyed this discussion, please give it a thumbs up. And if you like this type of content, please subscribe, of course. Click the bell icon to be alerted to future videos. And of course, share this content with others to help get the word out. We hope you're having a great day or evening wherever you are. And we'll see you next time.
All right. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.